All right, we are going to be using our Sketchbook app, which is available in self-serve. It looks like this, has a pencil on it. So if you need to go ahead and download that, we're going to be using this. You don't need to create an account or sign in, so just hit the X. And then up here at the top left, you can say new sketch or go to your gallery. So my gallery looks a little bit like this, where I've done a bunch of crazy drawings. And I could just hit this plus mark and say from new image, or I'm gonna have to do that. So new from image, import photo. I'm gonna go to my photos I've taken, and I took a photo of my artwork, and there it is. The other way that you can do this is you can go up and you can say new sketch and say create. I'm going to discard this one, and that'll just give you a blank sheet. We need to bring the photo in. So up here on the menu bar, there is a mountain button with a plus. I find the photo I want to upload and hit done, and there it is. Now over here on the right is my layers that are available. I have a blank layer and I have my layer with my photo on it. I don't need this blank layer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trash that. The layers are in order, so the ones above are on top, so you can work in layers going down. So your first base layer is going to be your photo. You can hit the plus to create a new layer on top, and the one that is highlighted is the layer you are manipulating or drawing on. So I'm going to draw on the blank layer with this one underneath so I can use it as a reference. Over on the left side are all the tools that you have available to you. The top button, there's a library that hold way more tools than you'll ever need or want, but if you play around with them and you start using ones over others, your favorites you can kind of click and hold and then drag over and pin them to this sidebar. So the ones that are on my sidebar right here are the ones that I use quite a bit. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to outline our comic with really nice straight edges. When I drew this, I was not paying attention to, I didn't use a ruler or anything, so this is where I'm going to sharpen those up. Now on this taskbar at the top, there's a button with a square, circle, and straight line, so I'm going to use this rectangle tool. I have this ink fountain pen marked, which I think is going to do a just fine job. It does matter which tool you use for what kind of mark you make. So I have the fountain pen. If you do not have this double puck right here, which is really helpful, down at the bottom there's a little button you can pick, and if you hit the double puck, it kind of looks like a pop tab lid. It'll bring it up. This is where I switch my colors at. I can manipulate my colors this way. I use these quite a bit. Whoops. This saturation and then light and dark, really, really handy. If you work with Copic markers a lot, they also have a bunch of colors you can use there, but I tend to use just this color wheel. And I'm gonna use the black here to outline. I have my rectangle, and I just need to see what the width of my tool will be. So right here, there's a little circle that you can see getting bigger and smaller. I'm gonna try that and see how it goes. I'm gonna click and drag for my first big rectangle. That is quite thick, so I think that maybe I'll leave that as a border, but I'll reduce the size for the other portions of my drawing. That's better. So now I'm just going to try to line them up as best as I can. Now these are a little bit off, not very good craftsmanship, so I'm going to go back using the back arrow and do a nice layout. I try to have all the spacing between them to be nice and even, like that. Just good craftsmanship. Now this circle here is a little bit harder. What I want to do is I want to be able to move it independently and size it where I want it to be. So I found that creating a new layer and drawing the circle on top. I just think it's hard to place when you draw that circle. Then I can scroll, and these 4 little arrows are going to allow you to move it around. So I'm going to move it. I'm just realizing it did not fill in there. So I'm going to back it up, do it one more time. I'm going to draw the circle just about the right size, and then I'm going to move it to where I want it to be. It's pretty good, actually. Right there. Now I want to merge these 2 layers together, so I click on my circle layer. Merge just means one goes down into the next layer. Merge all means all 3 layers will be together on one layer. So I just want to merge down, and now it's on that same layer. Now I want to erase these lines within my circle, so I'm going to go to my eraser tool. I'm going to make sure it's a good size. I'm going to pinch and zoom in because that's a little bit easier for me to have good craft. Oops. Anytime you mess up, you can just back it up, which is helpful. There we go. So now I have my layout. It's looking pretty good, and just to check, I'm going to click on this eye right here, and what that does is just toggles on and off what you can see, and I think that layout looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and start drawing over my characters here to create my final digital comic. Now, the tools that I like to use the most for just ink drawing is this fountain pen and this inking pen. And the difference is that the fountain pen draws the same width all the way across. The inking pen, your pressure applied changes the width of the line. And I kind of like that, so I'm going to use the inking pen. Now, what if my comic doesn't quite line up perfectly here? I'm going to show you how you can manipulate the bottom photograph so you can move it as you draw and you trace. I'm going to select the photograph. I'm going to choose the move tool, and this way I can pinch and move and manipulate. So let's say I kind of want that to be just my head, or I want that to be a little bit over. So I'm just focusing on this circle here. I'm not worried about the others. I'm just going to place it where I want it to be. And then I hit done. I'm going to start a new layer to draw on top. So my layout is one layer, my photo is one layer, and then I'm going to have this new layer on top that I'm drawing on top of. I can zoom in while I work on this, and I'm just going to very quickly go over my lines. You can change it as you go if you make different decisions along the way. One thing that I would really suggest doing is closing all your shapes. So if I didn't close my head shape, later on when we color, it's going to be really hard to color all the way through if you don't close those shapes. I'm going to show you an example. So let's say I want to color in this clock. Now, if I do something like this, where it's not quite closed, or maybe I'm so close but it's not quite closed, my next step, let's say I'm coloring it red, my next step after this is going to be filling it in with this bucket tool, and if I don't close it, it colors everything red. So if I close that shape and then later on I'm coloring it in, it's just going to color a lot more easy. So make sure that you close your major shapes that will have different colors to them. So let's say my head's going to be skin color. Doesn't mean my eyes, nose, and mouth need to be attached, but it will be, oh, it just disconnected. Sorry about that. It saves my work though, so no big deal. So I'm not sure why it got thick. So I'm going to go and I'm going to draw all of my bad hair in. I'm going to draw on all my lines. So after this square, I'm going to resize by going back to my photo, sizing it so that my next one fits really well, and then going back to this layer and then drawing over that.